Give a wave. Great. So my internet can be spotty. I think my video might break up, but hopefully my audio doesn't. So if it does, give me a little wave and I'll try to monitor that. So thanks for having me here. I am from Colorado State University, but I'm local. I'm in Grand Junction. So today I was going to talk about what our entity is, where I work, and then a little bit about our program. So forgive the hat, I've been in the field all day and you don't want to see farmer hair. So I am going to convert to my PowerPoint. Can you help me do that? Do I just share my screen?
Yeah, so you should be able to just share your screen and that will pop right over.
Okay, please bear with me. Okay. All right.
And there we go.
So, as I mentioned, I work for Colorado State University and I work at the Western Colorado Research Center. You may have seen our signs on the road and not know what that is. We have 3 research centers out on the western slope, so we're very well represented. We have one in Orchard Mesa, which is at 32 Road and B.5. So if you're headed to Delta, you may have seen our sign. We also have one at the Fruita Research Station out on L Road. And then we have one on Orchard Mesa, which is in Delta County, and that's our organic research station. So as I said, we're quite well represented out here on the western slope. So I thought what I would do today is talk a little bit about, because this is a science talk, about what an agriculture experiment station is and just how they came about, and just touch a little bit on the kind of research that we do. And then I'll talk about my program, which is more of the public facing arm of engagement and education. And then I want to save some time to wrap up with questions. So agriculture experiment stations, they actually have quite a long history. They go all the way back. The genesis goes back to Lincoln and around the Civil War. So in 1862, the Morrill Act was passed, and that established land-grant universities. And land-grant universities were intended to be publicly funded education institutions that really focused on agricultural science, military science, and engineering. So it's supposed to be very practical education that was aimed a little bit more towards sort of the common man. So the establishment of land-grant universities was not without controversy. The way that the federal government did this was they gifted 30,000 acres in each state, to each state, and the states could decide what to do with that land. So they could either sell the land and take the money and put it into existing private institutions and make programs that would teach agricultural science and military science, or they could use the land to build on. The problem is that it wasn't federal land. It was, a lot of the land was tribal lands that were forcibly taken. So we have kind of a difficult history. Soon after the Morrill Act was passed, the second Morrill Act came about, and that was that required states to show that race wasn't a criterion of admission for students, and so with that act came federal money that states could either bolster their initiatives to have to incorporate all races, or they could do the separate but equal principle and form a college. And so this is how a lot of about 17 historically black colleges were founded. That ended in about the 1950s when we realized separate but equal was not equal. And then so moving on to specifically looking at agriculture, agriculture experiment stations were founded in 1887 as a part of the Hatch Act. And the purpose of this was really to have outdoor laboratories across the state outside of the land-grant university that would be generating new knowledge in areas of food production. And so that would be anything from varieties or techniques, but also soil management and irrigation and things like that. So most agriculture experiment stations live in land-grant universities, some don't. So every state has had at one point an ag experiment station, but they're actually kind of closing down now, except for in Colorado. So in Colorado, we actually have 7 research centers across the state. You can see on the map that we have our main Western Colorado Research Center in our area. There's one down in Cortez. They really look at dry land agriculture. The San Luis Valley one, not surprisingly, looks at potatoes. And they also look at other crops such as quinoa. We have one in Plainsman, which is a real challenging place to grow food down in the southeast corner. One in the Arkansas Valley, which is really our bed of vegetable production, and the Pueblo chili and melons. And then we have the one over in Eastman is actually mainly for cattle. And then we have our flagship one in Fort Collins. So going back to the history of these, the cooperative extension, which is what you guys are probably most familiar about when you hear of CSU being in your community, it was established by the Smith-Lever Act in 1914. And that was really an attempt to put agents into those rural areas to bring that research to the end users. So it wasn't just enough to generate that knowledge at universities or experiment stations. They needed people to help get people to adopt those practices, those rigorously tested practices. So that's how cooperative extension came about. Okay, so and looking at the Western Colorado Research Center, I mentioned we have 3 separate stations. We have one up at Rogers Mesa, which solely focuses on organic. It's one of the only all organic research stations in the nation. They really focus on peach fruit production, which is very common up in the Hotchkiss area. So there's a picture of peaches, which is the closest you're going to get this year because of our freeze. So we're pretty wiped out. They're also looking at cherries and apple production up there. They're investigating a new market in table grapes, which is this picture here. And that's our research associate putting some netting on there to do some organic control of pests and birds from getting those table grapes. And then among the other projects they have is they have an incubator system to help small farmers who want to investigate new markets. And this was a microgreen growing facility based at Rogers Mesa that we were helping out. The other neat project that they're working on at Rogers Mesa is looking at organic seed production. So that's often a big gap in organic production, is that you can use the methods and the pest control and the soil amendments. You can do those organic, but sometimes it's really hard to find organic seeds. And so that's a potentially really big market for people. So down below is kind of an example of the type of research that they're doing there. They're looking at what kind of peach varieties work well in the conditions up at Rogers Mesa and how to manage them organically. The Fruita Research Station is out on El Road, as I mentioned. They really focus on forage crops, which are crops that you would feed directly to livestock. About 70% of the production in Mesa County is actually forage. It's growing things to give to livestock. So we always think of the peach market and the vineyards as being such a dominant force, but in terms of production, it's actually forage crops. So this research station really focuses on what it takes to grow in the Colorado River Basin. And what I mean by that is like all the complicated rules of water rights and dealing with water that's very silty and dealing with soils that are very alkaline. So how can we efficiently use that water? How can we conserve that water? They really look at soil conservation. So that would be reducing the amount of tillage that you do, how much you churn up your soils, intercropping, which means putting a couple of different crops together, and then cover cropping, which is to cover the soil with a beneficial plant that hopefully restores the soil communities and puts some nutrients back into the soil. So that's really their jam out there. The other thing they look at is alternative forage crops. So they'll look at leguminous grains that can be fed to livestock that would be a little bit more acclimated to this area. And then our Orchard Mesa Research Station is where I'm located. We have 3 main programs out here. Our first one is our viticulture program, which is vineyards. So we grow a lot of varieties of grapes under the direction of Dr. Horst Kaspari. And he's looking at varieties that work well out here. And he looks at cold hardiness because it's a challenge to grow in this valley with our seasonal frosts and our inversions in April. He looks at how to train those vines and manage the vineyard, and also what good cover crop in the soil really helps grow those vines the best. And then what is a vineyard without wine? So he partners with an enologist, and he has a lot of winemaking experience himself. And he actually takes the varieties that we grow and makes test wines. And so that's an important component of the research, because if you're introducing a new variety, a lot of our varieties actually come from Minnesota. I want to taste the wine. So it's a nice perk of our job that we sometimes get to taste the wine. The second main program is our pomology program. Pomology means tree fruit. And so our focus is peaches, cherries, and apples. And our scientist there is named Yannis Minas. He's actually originally from Greece, and he takes a lot of the high density growing sort of programs that are very common in Europe and is looking to adapt them to the United States, because those programs maximize the efficiency in your orchard and also reduce potentially the ability to reduce your labor costs. But of course, along with productivity, you want to have good quality. So he looks at that post-harvest quality aspect. He also looks at cold hardiness and what biological factors affect cold hardiness. And then he looks at different kinds of varieties that work well in our climate. And then we partner with other faculty from the main campus to look at pest and disease management. So really, all these research stations can be considered an outdoor laboratory. The faculty who run it are either based here or they're based on campus. So the question comes up, what do we do with all this fruit? So, the wine grapes get made into wine, but the tree fruit, we have anywhere from 12 to 18 acres of orchards. And we don't need all of that fruit to finish the experiment. The experiment is not testing a dangerous substance or doing any kind of GMOs or anything like that. So it's perfectly safe and edible. So what could we do with this? And when our new station manager came on, he's very connected to the community and committed to donating that fruit. So harvesting to 18 acres of fruit is not a trivial process, and we knew we needed the community's help. So my part of the program is an engagement and education program where we have volunteers and school kids and interns who harvest the fruit, direct it to food banks, and then we also direct it to schools, and we take all of those opportunities and provide some education. So my program, as you'll see, as you've already seen already, you have agriculture experiment station and research centers, and now here's another word soup. This is my program, Community Alliance for Education and Hunger Relief, which goes to show you when you have two scientists designing a program name, you're going to get an extremely literal and long name involved with it, but it describes what we do. So our big program is our Farm to Food Bank program. I'm pretty sure we have one of our stellar volunteers on this call today. We rely on our volunteers to help us pick our fruit and our vegetables. They sometimes will help do maintenance in our fields. And so in our 3 years of farming and cropping specifically for this program, we've donated over 270,000 pounds of fresh fruit. So we donate to food banks locally, which we can very quickly max out. And so we're very lucky to have a partnership with Food Bank of the Rockies. And they take our food and distribute it to 14 counties on the western slope. So here's just a lovely picture of one of our volunteer crews that I love. So another part of our farm to food bank training is, program is actually the ability to give some career training. So we partner with the Western Colorado Community Program with their Sustainable Agriculture Program, and we host field trips in labs and classes. And when the students who are enrolled in that program are interested in vegetable production, we actually hire them as interns to manage, to not only participate in the orchard harvest, but also to manage 4 acres of vegetables. And so as a part of that learning, we donate the vegetables to the food bank. So it takes that learning out of that WCCC courtyard and puts it into a bigger scale. So the students, 4 acres of vegetables is probably about the size of a large farm that you would have here. We tend to be still very manual, with a little bit of tractor support in our vegetable production in the valley. So they're getting a very similar experience to what they would get if they went into to a local grower. So as I said, we hire interns from WCCC, but we also partner with the Mesa County Workforce Center to give people opportunities to get some hands-on training. So the orchards and the fields really give us an opportunity to do some education with kids. And so this is our farm to school program. We partner with School District 51. We not only partner with the classrooms, but we also have a really great partnership with our nutrition services director. Those are the people who make the school lunch and school breakfast. So we have those field trips out in the spring. They come and they plant the fields. They authentically do it. And so we may have a few mistakes when children do it. They sometimes get a little rushed and we'll just not find a plant very buried. But we really like this experience because it give kids and their parents this understanding of the large scale agriculture of what it means to grow a lot of food. And the kids don't just get a chance to plant one plant, they often are planting 50 plants. When they come to visit with us, we also do a hands-on learning activity very similar to what they might find at Eureka. And we work with school teachers to design that visit to complement what they're learning in the curriculum. Those same classes come back to us in the fall and they harvest. So this is a group from Chatfield. And we really emphasize the service part of what they're doing. So they know that part of the crop is going to go to the food bank. And down below is a picture from Mesa Valley Schools who came out and helped us with the watermelon harvest. And it went right onto the big Food Bank of the Rockies semi that came into the parking lot that day. I mentioned the partnership with the Nutrition Services Department. They make sure that we send the harvest back with the kids, and the cafeteria workers puts it on the salad bar. And so right here, you can see that they wrote on that sneeze guard that 4th graders picked that food. So it really does kind of encourage kids to eat it and gives them a sense of pride. With every visit, we always taste, we always eat, because that's a very important part of what we do is to get kids to eat fresh vegetables and do it in a positive and supportive environment. Okay, so we have a couple other pieces of engagement and education that we do. This is an example of things that we do with Riverside Education Center and the Community Transformation Project. We always we have them out throughout the year and throughout the growing season so the kids can see the different stages. And then they harvest a really big harvest, and we bring it to the Book Cliff Elementary School, which is the site of the Community Transformation Project, and have a free farmers market for the rec families, but also for the neighbors. And I think actually they charge 25 cents a pound so the kids can get used to that money transaction and the weighing. And that money goes back into their program. But also research shows that people will value the food more and use it more if they pay something. So we're okay with the 25 cents a pound. So we really love this activity. The other type of things that we do in the community, just a small few examples. We support a lot of scout projects and service projects. We partnered with WCCC's Agriculture Structures program to build the soup house, but the weather just thwarted them. And so we had this part unfinished, and an Eagle Scout came and finished it up for us. So we have a lot of service projects going on. And then we partner with groups that really focus on encouraging people to eat more fruits and vegetables. And so one of them locally is called We Can Mesa County. It's based out of a primary care physician group that works with families who are at risk of diabetes and obesity. And so they do weekly meetings where they do a healthy activity or they learn to cook, and we supply vegetables, and they come out to our place and maintain a little garden, and then we send food boxes home with them. So those are the type of engagement that we do here. And then our best one is Eureka. So Eureka, an early partnership between my station manager and Jen in 2016 really kind of led to the education arm of my program. So Greg, our station manager, just realized the opportunity to have kids out here, and they just bring such a wonderful spirit to the place. So we started having agricultural camps. And so we've done them, every year. And the kids will come out and they'll learn about pests in the orchard from our research associate. We always, do some sort of tasting or cooking. Sometimes that's our sole focus. We'll do cooking in the garden camps, where we just really focus on minimal techniques, getting kids somewhat comfortable with cooking, but just lots of different preparations so kids can try it. And then we send home recipes and food with their kids so they can share it with their family. So we have we accept garden failures like enormous zucchinis, and we try to find ways around them, and we try to celebrate them. And then we're very lucky because last year we just finished our brand new facility. And so instead of cooking on a picnic table, we actually have a 30-seat teaching kitchen. And so we're allowed to, or that enables us to teach in a pretty nice kitchen and very sanitary and engaging. So we're really thrilled. So this year we're going to have 3 camps. Hopefully everything holds out good in our community. We'll be focusing on agriculture. The 3rd to 5th graders will be focusing on food science. With the same group. And then we're actually going to look at microbes and how microbes are in agriculture and how they affect food. So we're very excited about our partnership with Eureka. Okay, so that's a lot of different programs, and it's super easy to do a mission drift on what you do. And so really what we think of our mission is we support community health by increasing people's access to fresh produce in the nonprofit food system. So the nonprofit food system is food banks and food pantries, and even school meals. School meals, breakfast and lunch, feed a lot of kids. It's one of our most successful anti-hunger programs. It's been around for a really long time. So we do this not only by growing, but we only are growing 4 acres of vegetables. And so we also do this by help connect our food pantries to our farmers and help work out some of those systems and be ambassadors for that and advocates, because that's really where we're going to get a lot of fresh produce into our food banks. And it's not just all about donating, where we really advocate strongly that food banks and food pantries set aside buying power to purchase from local growers. The second focus of our work, or the second way we support our community, is really to encourage that consumption of fresh produce through the education and engagement programs. The research is pretty clear that if one of the most effective ways in getting at least students to eat fresh fruit and vegetables is just repeated exposure, and exposure in a fun and supportive environment. And so that's really our focus for that farm to school program. So I think that concludes my formal remarks, but I'm very happy to open up for discussion or questions or anything you'd like to share.
Yeah, wow, thank you, Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
What a big production you have going on. So I did mute everybody, but if you do have questions, absolutely unmute yourself, and now would be a great time.